Hello, and welcome back to I'll Have What She's Having. This is the second episode in a 3-episode mini-series on orgasms. We are stepping into the 3 phases of becoming orgasmic: reclamation, expansion, and mastery. And if you haven't listened to the last episode, 57, on orgasm reclamation yet, I highly recommend pausing this right now and going to listen to that first. Even just the first section on why can't I orgasm is so essential. Because, okay, unless you're like, nah, I've got my orgasm, I'm not looking to expand it, you're in the right place. All right, so today we are talking about orgasmic expansion. This is where sex stops being something you do and starts being a state that you enter. This is the episode where orgasms stop being a single moment and start becoming an experience, where pleasure stops being localized and starts moving through the whole body, where sex stops being goal-oriented and starts a change in consciousness. And fair warning, after this episode, you may never think about orgasms the same way again. But also, a quick note on content here that yes, this is a podcast about orgasms, so mainly for pussy owners. However, there is techniques and principles you can use and apply to men's sexuality for penis owners as well. And think about it this way: if you're someone who likes to pleasure pussy, this is some essential learning right here. I'm just saying, if a man knew all of this, if my partner knew all of this, they would be a better lover. They might be able to suggest some new sex acts. They might take some pointers from the practices. He might get curious around my pleasure, my orgasm. I'm just saying, that's all really, really sexy. So just a suggestion, still give it a listen, stick around and find out all the things that you've always wished you knew about orgasms. All right, I can't wait to get into all of this with you, but of course, before we do, we just have a few quick announcements. So first, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my God, yes, but how do I actually do this? Or this sounds absolutely incredible, but I don't know how to do it alone. You don't have to. I still have a few spots left in my signature coaching container, Wild, Worthy, and Orgasmic. In just 12 weeks, we work through orgasmic reclamation, expansion, and mastery so that your sex life, confidence, and connection to your body completely transforms. So you can book a free call through the link in the show notes, and let's talk about making 2026 your most orgasmic year yet. All right, and secondly, you can work through your orgasmic journey with others in one of my 2 upcoming women's retreats. First, we have Wild Women Rising, which is a reclamation of wildness, sisterhood, and pleasure near Vancouver, BC in May of 2026. We also have Wild Women Unleashed, which is a week-long immersive pleasure retreat in Mexico next February. We have one more pre-sale ticket for this spring, so apply now while spots last. And for a week-long immersion, the applications are open, but it is super secret still. It hasn't been launched. So if you go on over and apply right now, you will be first in line and you will get the cheapest of tickets, or the cheapest available. And remember that this one is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who are so fucking ready to no longer be the same woman they used to be. They are ready to shed that proverbial snakeskin and run like hell towards who they are becoming. Since women have been saying that the 3-day retreat was life-changing, I can't wait to see how this week-long adventure goes in Mexico. It is the first one, but it is the 4th or 5th retreat I'll be running for women. So, oh my gosh, we're just taking the ideas and the concepts from Wild Women Rising and we're expanding it. Details are all at krishall.ca, so apply early for best pricing. These will sell out. Your wild woman is waiting to be reclaimed. I can't wait. All right, and lastly, for those of you who are wanting to do this on your own, play around and expand your orgasm, I've got a free 15-minute training for you. It's called the Pleasure Portal, and it's absolutely magic. There's a link in the show notes where you can grab your own copy and try out my most essential orgasmic techniques for yourself. You can grab it today at krishall.ca/thepleasureportal. All right, now on to the episode. So first, I'd love to review the framework for these episodes, right? Those 3 phases of orgasms. We've got reclamation, we've got expansion, and then, of course, we have mastery. So let's start with reclamation, what we went over last week, right? This is where we talked about permission, safety, access, celebration, worthiness, and desire. If you're sexually shut down, you need empowerment and celebration. You might need to know that it's okay to masturbate, to fantasize, to explore porn, to maybe even need direct instructions on how to touch yourself. You might need some beginner instruction on how to engage with the sexual world and permission to start exploring your desires. This is the foundation. It's the sex education that we all needed. It's about being able to truthfully say, my desires are valid. My sexual choices are valid. I understand my body. I know how to give myself pleasure. I feel worthy and deserving of pleasure. I trust myself sexually. I celebrate my pleasure, my body, and my choices. If you can do that, then you are ready for orgasmic expansion. Even if you can only do that sometimes, remember that these steps are not linear. Okay, so then we move into expansion. That's today. So today we're going to look at redefining orgasm, deepening sensation. We get into all of it today. I'm so excited. And then we get mastery, using sexual energy for healing, power, and life force. So for those who have worked a lot with orgasm expansion techniques, this gets into more spiritual realms. People who are ready to use it for healing, manifestation, using sexuality as a fuel, and spiritual development. This could be sex magic, how to store and process sexual energy, and more advanced tantric techniques. And from other lineages as well. There's so many ancient techniques that we can apply and use our sexual energy to amplify. Stage 2 and 3, expansion and mastery, go together quite a bit, but you do need to work on stage 2 at least a little bit first before stage 3 starts making sense. But then you really can use them in tandem, right? It's not like, oh, I've completely done one, I'm going to move to the other. Like, I have to skip between all 3 steps all the time. Like, I have to sometimes bring myself all the way back to reclamation. If I have something happen, I need to move through those techniques again. I need to celebrate myself, reconnect with my body. I'm not a master. I'm a student just like you. And I just have lots of resources that I love to share. And I've gone through a lot of this before. So remember, again, it's not linear. You can revisit any of these phases, any of these steps, anytime you want. And you may do lots of orgasmic expansion work in one season of your life and find yourself needing to do the work again a few years or even just a few months later. Like, it's okay. The trick is that the next time you do it, it goes way faster, that you have healed a piece and maybe there's something else that's ready to show up and be seen, right? You get back to where you're going a lot faster. Remember the analogy of the diet. We've got the reclamation, which is the junk food stage, and we're not shaming anything here. We're looking at expansion, where we have variety and depth and listening to the body and eating lots more vegetables. And then we have mastery, where your diet works for you and there's a place for all of the foods, and you get into the weeds of like how to use supplements, right? If we're going on the diet of like, oh yeah, we're gonna optimize all of our experience with the diet. And it's all about what works for you. So don't look at what anybody else is doing. Just do what works for you. Okay. So now we have, what is orgasmic expansion? Part number 1. Okay, so this is for you if you feel like your body is responding, you feel pleasure, you can orgasm, but you know there's something more. You are experiencing some kind of orgasm, but you might need a new definition of orgasm to be able to expand your ability to orgasm in different ways, right? You're starting to get curious. You're like, okay, I've done this one. This one feels great, but like, is there more? You're sexually functioning just fine, but you're hungering for that something more. Maybe you use porn, that's okay. You orgasm with your clit a little bit more, and you're ready for something different and deeper. Remember, the orgasm is so much more than the clit, and I'm so excited to talk about all of this today. It's a phase where we're training away from goal-oriented sex and to being more in the moment, showing up for whatever arises. We have the openness, the surrender, listening to greater orgasmic wisdom that lives within all of us, right? Can you listen to your orgasm? Can you listen to your pussy? Are you ready to explore the fullness of what orgasms can be, right? This phase is for opening up to your orgasmic nature, becoming multi-orgasmic, learning about what the different types of orgasms are and what we can experience, learning what your body is capable of, learning the principles of amazing sex and orgasm. And I work with clients on every phase, but I find this is where I spend a lot of time because this is the point that we aren't taught how to seek more, right? Like we can feel it in our bones, but we weren't usually given the tools. And so here is the truest truth you'll ever hear about orgasms. We experience what we believe is possible. That's a truth for basically all of life also. And most women have been taught an incredibly narrow definition of orgasm, right? There's a clitoral buildup, a peak, a release, and we're done. But orgasms don't work like that. They happen in waves, in loops, in spirals, in explosions, in dissolutions, in oceanic pops. They can move through your body. They can change your consciousness. They can last seconds, minutes, or hours. They can be subtle. They can be wild. They can be quiet. They can be everything. And they can take you to another dimension. And none of that requires a clitoral climax. Although it can include one, the clit is a magical and wonderful body part that is always your ally in orgasm and pleasure. But if you take away one thing from this episode, let it be this: we experience what we expect. So change your expectations. Okay, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you my story. I have a lot of stories around this. I've spent years here. I've spent countless hours, and I didn't even know where to begin. So I'm going to start where my story in the last episode left off, right? I did my reclamation by healing my body and the layers of fear and shame and guilt and tension and all of it that was making sex quite painful for me, that was holding me back from pleasure itself. And so when I was ready to go deeper, I was like, okay, I found some stuff. I know what I'm going to do. I found the info on how to get exquisite pleasure, and this is where I want to go. And I was like, yes, this is everything. I hadn't felt such a fuck yes from the universe in so long. And then I told my partner at the time, and he was like, I'm not interested in that. And I was like, yeah, but I'm just asking for your support and to be patient with me. And like, maybe I'll bring up a couple exercises that we can try together. And he straight up was like, I have so much of my own work to do. I have no time for what you're working on. So, 2 months later, we ended that relationship, and I started working on my orgasms for real. And I told myself that I'd be single for a full year. I had to be. I needed the time alone to rediscover my body and my pleasure. I spent full hours exploring my own pleasure with some instruction on how to do it. I gave myself the time and space to actually learn what so many of us don't get instruction or time to do, which is our own bodies. And not just physically what's there, but more importantly, what's like emotionally and psychosomatically trapped. I had to teach myself how to be present with my sensations, how to learn to feel every little part of my body. And I learned how my own breath was the salvation at any given moment to allow me to be present. At one of my retreats, we came up with the hashtag breathe one out, which is so perfect because that's absolutely what you do, right? You breathe one out, right? It's the bridge. Your breath is the only thing you can do consciously and subconsciously, which means it bridges your conscious and your unconscious experience. I had to learn how to talk to my pussy, and I found out that she talked back. I found out that when I ignored her, she got tight and angry and full of pain. Every few months, even now, if I ignore her, she needs that loving care and attention. And all it takes is speaking to her and reassuring her and asking her questions and touching her with curiosity and care instead of trying to get something from her. But I have to do it. I have to keep doing that practice. When I step away from it, those same things return. I learned that she needs to give explicit consent for anything going inside me because there have been so many times where I let something inside me without being 100% sure. And I'm sure there's some listeners out there who feel the same. I went around thinking when I was younger that for some reason I had to, for so many different reasons, that makes me want to cry and hold younger Kris. But again, if that's you too, you're not alone. I didn't know when I was younger, or I didn't feel confident enough to ask or to even demand that I had to be warmed up properly with other types of stimulation before penetration, And I would be so worried what would happen if I said no, or what that would make me into. I was so worried about what they thought, and sometimes it was basically a stranger. Like it's crazy, but it happens to a lot of us. So it got to the point where my pussy didn't trust me to make that call, right? She was worried every single time that I would do something to hurt her. And so, yes, you can 100% talk to her. And I'll show you how later on. It's one of the greatest tools I've found for expansion is just being so present with your pussy that you can actually hear her speaking back to you. And this goes for all types of genitalia. There is a huge presence there, the same as your heart or any other part of your body, but really, truly down in your genitals, there is so much presence, right? And there's something important in this. It took a lot of practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of discovering your own body, learning new pleasure techniques, healing old wounds, and most importantly, developing that nurturing relationship with your body. A lot of us use our bodies without recognizing that we need to create a reciprocal relationship with them. We can't just take all the pleasure we want from our pussies. We need to offer them love and comfort too. And so, one last thing I'll share about my experience, because this is all from my experience, right? That is all me. I learned that separate from learning how to be a sex coach. Okay, so one of the most healing practices I've found is staring into a pussy. It's healing for the person who owns the pussy and the person staring into the pussy. And I've got two stories to share with you because both are wildly different. The first practice is called pussy worship or pussy gazing. Same thing, different name. So, story number one is after going to a women's retreat in Costa Rica, a group of us were out at a bar and there was this hottie who had just been staring. He was also at the ecstatic dance we were earlier that day, and he had been staring then too. And so I was like, all right, this guy really wants it. He's into it. He's not skipping between women. He's like purely locked on me. So like, I'll give him a chance. Also, yeah, I was like, all right, let's talk. And yeah, I mean, after realizing that he was really sweet, I went home with him and we took a detour in his car. And so timeline wise, this was nearing the end of my year of pleasure expansion, right? I had just practiced pussy gazing for the first time with a group of women at the retreat. And after that, and knowing the experiences I had had in my life, I told myself that the next man who got the pleasure of touching my pussy would have to worship it first. So, cut back to the car. We're in his car on a beach in Costa Rica at night, making out. And it gets hotter and it steams up, and I tell him what I want. And he obliges without question. He just knew. He just knew. So I'm straddled on top of like that middle console in the car, legs open. He's sitting in the back seat, gazing at my pussy, and he worships the shit out of it. He does such a good job, and I felt like a goddamn queen. It was healing. It was empowering. We had great sex that night, and that moment was just like, fuck yes, I can ask for what I need. And a man and my partner can say yes. And if they say no, I can say no to the whole experience, shut it down, and there's nothing wrong with me. And yes, I had to learn that at that point in this way, or at least fully feel it in my body. I knew it, but I didn't internalize that experience. So the second story I want to tell you about pussy gazing is more recent. I had been having trouble connecting with someone, and I knew I could feel that after a few mishaps, I needed to really know that he really saw me and understood me and was willing to go at my pussy's pace and like listen to her needs. I hadn't gotten that confirmation based on our physical and intimate interaction so far. And so he was completely receptive to whatever I needed. I just needed to ask for it. And so I told him I needed him to worship my pussy before touching it again. And so he went down between my legs and he gazed at me for a long time. And then, as instructed, he complimented my physical folds and appearance. And then he told me what came to his mind. He praised all the things that pussy does, like creating life and being a portal into this world and being so, so strong and all that stuff. And these are the steps, right? Gazing and then complimenting the actual physical form and then just bringing up whatever comes to mind when you're staring down the barrel of a pussy, you know? And it's so healing. I cried the whole time. There were silent tears just like coursing down my face. Because even though I'd done it before, even though I'd been doing this for years, in that moment with this man in my current state, these tears felt so good, right? It wasn't, I can't even describe what it was. It was this release. Like, it felt like coming home to her again. I could trust our connection again. I could trust him. There was just something in the way that he was looking at me. Like, it felt like everything. So even if you've been with your partner for years and years and years, it can be so healing to do this, to stop and say, hey, I need this. I want you to re-meet pussy as she is today so that I can see you and I can see you see her in reverence, right? So when we finished, he came up and we snuggled and held each other, of course, and he cried too, right? He saw something new. He had never really looked, right? He'd been around the area so many times with me and with other women, but he had never really seen pussy for all its power and all its wisdom. It's so powerful for both people for different reasons every time. So only after this could I re-engage in sex with this person with complete confidence that he understood my needs and my pussy and my pleasure in a whole new way. And I could see it in his face. I could see it in his tears. Like he really, truly did. So anyways, full orgasmic expansion requires knowing yourself, every part of you, especially your genitals. And being seen like that is life-changing. All right, let's go on to part number 2, which is redefining orgasm. Some limiting beliefs that we gently need to burn to the ground. All right, that orgasms must look a certain way, that they must be explosive, that they must involve ejaculation or coming or squirting, that they must come from the clit, or that they must end. All of these are false. Some women experience oceanic orgasms, some experience anal orgasms. There's cervical, uterine, breast, full body, energetic, third eye. Orgasms can come from anywhere, look like anything, and last any amount of time. There's no hierarchy. There's no better orgasm. There's no gold star orgasm. All orgasmic experiences are valid. All pleasure is worthy. All sensation is information. And so much more, but so much that we can't even get into it in that moment. Science will not explain all of this, and that's okay. Your body knows, right? So here's the definition I want you to try on. An orgasm is an experience that includes pleasure, expansion, and a shift in consciousness, right? It's not just climax, it's not just release, but it's expansion itself. Pleasure that moves, pleasure that deepens, that teaches you something about yourself. Sometimes. About the universe. Sometimes. Orgasmic expansion is about being really present instead of goal-oriented. It's about letting the pleasure grow and flow instead of rushing to finish it. Because also, why are we rushing to the end? This is the fun part. Celebrating sensation as it's happening and allowing orgasm to keep going instead of shutting it down when there's any sort of emotion around, oh no, where does it go from here? Like there's this feeling of needing to control it or being afraid of what happens if we lose control. But the trick is, so one of the greatest analogies I've ever heard about orgasms and climaxes, because they are two different things. A climax is a predictable, repeatable experience. And an orgasm is like jumping off a cliff. You have no idea what to expect. You lose control. You surrender to the fullness of this experience. I hold this picture in my mind a lot because I really like to see me literally dropping off the side of a cliff. And maybe this time I get wings. Maybe I don't. Maybe I end up in a hurricane. Maybe I dive into the ocean. Maybe I free fall for ages. I try to let go of how every other orgasm felt, even though that's hard, because every single orgasm is different. All right, part number 3. We're going to look at orgasmic geography. Your body is an orgasmic landscape. And most people only explore one small neighborhood. Expansion means getting curious about your whole geography. Everything can be orgasmic. Every inch of your skin, your armpit, your elbow, your knee, your feet, your belly, your third eye, your breasts especially, your heart especially, any emotion you've got, right? Angergasms, sadgasms, all of them, all your energy. And this doesn't even get into all the different areas of your pussy that can be orgasmic. All right, let's do a quick little anatomy lesson before I get on to telling you how to activate these locations. So, let's explore the pussy for a second. The cock will be a whole other episode on men's sexuality and pleasure. and all of that stuff. So we have the pubic mound, right? The outside. And of course, I apologize that you don't get a picture here. Please do look up a picture. If you do need to follow along or get more information, please go to The Women's Anatomy of Arousal by Sherry Winston. It is an incredible book and very detailed and very useful for all people looking to either be a good pussy owner or pleasure pussies. Okay, so we have the outside, we have the outer lips, we have the inner lips, we have the vaginal opening, we have the vaginal canal, we have the G-spot tube. I'm going to stop right there. The G-spot, named for some ridiculous man who thought he discovered it, is a tube. It's not a spot. Really spongy tube that actually surrounds the urethra. And so what it's doing is protecting the urethra during sex. And so it gets hard and wet. Because as I love to say, both men and women, all types of genitalia get both hard and wet. And so the G-spot is no exception. It is one of the 4 pieces of the women's erectile network, which basically means the parts of our body that gets hard and wet, right? Men have penises. We have 4 different parts. We have so much more erectile tissue. Oh my God, there's so much. It's so complex. And they all need to get hard and wet before we are prepared for penetration or any harder forms of sex. Unless you like that stuff. That's cool too. I'm not going to shame your kinks. So we have the G-spot tube with the urethra on the inside. We have the clitoris, which is of course not just the clitoral head, which is the tiny little bean that we see. There's full legs underneath. They get hard and wet as well. We have the cervix, which is at the end of your vaginal canal, where incredible orgasms come from. That's the point at which you're like, oh my gosh, something's touching the end. That's the cervix. And it can either feel really emotional, it can feel really painful, it can feel really pleasurable. There's a lot there because it is like literally the opening to the world, like that's where babies come out of. And then of course behind that, there's the womb, protected by the cervix, and there's womb orgasms and a whole bunch of womb experiences that are very deep and very incredible, but you can orgasm from any part of it. And so like brief little overview on the erectile network. We have the vestibular bulbs, which are right underneath the vaginal lips, right? So they're kind of on the outside. And so that's why when a woman gets hard and wet, you'll see the whole thing expand and open, right? Like she doesn't have to open her legs for her vagina to look open because it's hard. It's actually getting erect. That's what makes it look different. Like a skilled person, a person who's studied this, will be able to look at a vagina and know how erect it is and know how turned on it is, especially if they know that vagina. I mean, it'll look different pussy to pussy. So you can't just be like, I know them all. Like maybe give somebody a chance to be like, this is what I look like when I'm super, super hard. But that is why it changes look. And then we have the G-spot tube. Again, like it needs to get hard and wet to protect the urethra. And that's why it can often be really painful to touch it right away. But then, 15 minutes into pleasure, all of a sudden it feels really pleasurable. It's because it's had a chance to become erect. The clitoris is the same. It massively swells in size. There's all these like fun pictures online of like, a happy clit, which is when it's all fat and puffed up, and that's when it's erect. And then of course there's this secret little 4th spot, which is the wall between the vaginal canal and the anal canal, and that swells too, which is why anal sex feels so good, because you're touching that part. And I mean, all the nerve endings and all the other stuff in the anus that all feel absolutely wonderful. So to activate these areas, right, to use any body part to create an orgasmic experience, you can focus on that area of your body, use breath and touch and sound and movement and presence to deepen the sensation there, right? You can even teach your body to orgasm or feel deeper pleasure in certain locations by cross-training a part of you that already feels pleasure. So you can kind of like hitch a ride on the sensations that are already there. Like the example of this is like if your armpit is really sensitive to tickling, it actually might be really sensitive to orgasm and to heightened states of pleasure because there's already so much sensation that you feel there. So another example is like you want to have a breast orgasm. And so one way to train your body to do that is to pleasure yourself on your genitals at the same time as when you're pleasuring yourself on your breasts, and those wires will start to like the neurons will start to fire and wire together, right? And so that when you touch your breast, all of a sudden it goes, oh, this is an orgasmic experience. So you might be thinking, why bother? Right? Like, my vulva feels great. I don't need any other types. I'm fine. And I mean, you don't have to, but also, why not? They feel different and bodies are so cool. And I'm just here to show you what's possible, right? I'm just showing you the door. You get to choose whether or not you walk through it. I will explain more of these different techniques on how to build up orgasm after going over the principles of orgasmic expansion. So, part number 4, we have the principles of orgasmic expansion. So there's 4 kind of foundational pieces. 1 is presence over performance. So you still have a goal, but you stop staring at it. The trick is to move past a goal. But you still kind of have one, of course. But the trick is to deepen so much into the present moment that any thought of your goal dissolves. Number 2 is permission to slow down. Most women are wildly deficient in yin energy, right? We've been told to be more yang in this patriarchal society that we live in. And so we haven't learned as much how to slow way down, way down. And then, use one of the most essential sex tools, literally just slowing down to a point where you can actually be present for all of your sensations, right? Number 3 is relaxation and safety and softness. Well, that's what ends up happening when you relax, right? These are not opposites to fire, they're what allow it. You'll find that through relaxation, the rest will come a lot easier. And not rest as in relaxation, but the rest of the sensation, the orgasm, the safety, right? A lot of people need to soften into sex. But at the same time, also some people need to add fire, right? So number 4 is permission to add fire. Some women need more yang energy, more of that masculine energy, more of that directive energy, more movement, more intensity, more sound. And so it's not a one size fits all. You get to mix and match these based on your body's needs, right? So we've got presence, we've got slowing down, we've got relaxation, and then fire, right? And so mix and match these whatever suits your needs in the moment. These are the principles of orgasmic expansion. All right. Part number 5, we're going to talk about some techniques, orgasmic expansion techniques. So these are the steps, first of all, to activating an orgasmic experience. So we've got enhancing pleasure. You can touch. Use all of your skin. Don't go straight for the most sensitive parts. Use presence. Feel it all by being so deeply present. Forget everything else except for that touch on your skin. Celebration. Find joy in every little thing. And then slow down again. Slow down. It's one of the most essential things to creating a better sexual experience is just slowing down. So that's enhancing the pleasure, right? Using touch, presence, celebration, slowing down. And then we can expand pleasure. And this is widely done through using your breath, right? Intentionally moving different energy to different parts of your body, to different places, using energy techniques. Really, really powerful way of expanding the pleasure, breath and energy. And then we get to the mind and consciousness shift. This is part 3 of an orgasmic experience, right? We've got pleasure, we've got expanding that pleasure, and then we've got this consciousness shift. So it really, truly is a surrender. It's jumping off that cliff, relaxing into the experience. A lot of women tend to tense in this moment, a lot of men too, for that matter. Consciously, purposely relaxing does way more and lets way more fullness of orgasm come through. And so if you want more about these tools, I would suggest looking at one or both of my episodes. So number 44, the top 5 tips for better sex, will go over some of this. So will number 49, episode number 49, which is masturbation as medicine. Both of those have a lot of this information in them. But very quick on some of these essential tools and how to use them. So number 1 is breath. So this is essential, right? It sensitizes, it gets you into your body. It can slow you down or speed you up based on how fast you breathe. And if you breathe through your nose, you're slowing down. If you breathe through your mouth, you're speeding up. And this is the key to orgasm, right? Never hold your breath. Usually our bodies do it for us naturally, but once in a while there is somebody who holds their breath during orgasm. And it's tough. I don't know if you can, honestly. And the more you encourage it through your breathing, right? You can breathe the way that your body wants to breathe, or you can encourage it even more by bigger, bigger and bigger breaths and through the mouth. Yeah. So next is sound. Sound is liberation. It's not performance. It helps you surrender and move energy around. We've got movement. So don't keep your body locked up. Let it move intuitively with the pleasure. Liberated movement creates a more embodied sexuality and a sense of sexual freedom. Next, we have energy. Let the energy flow to different parts of your body. Use techniques like the microcosmic orbit to let energy flow around your body. The main idea here is that sexual energy is, of course, energy. And when we intentionally move this energy around our bodies, we can feel pleasure in more parts and different parts of our bodies. This is how full body orgasms happen, because your pleasure is everywhere, not just your genitals. All right, next is focus and intention, right? You get what your intention is, and your focus matters. By focusing on your pussy and not on your to-do list, it's going to be different. So if you set an intention that isn't event-based, but instead sensation and emotion-based, that makes all the difference. So not, I want to experience an armpit orgasm, but I want to feel pleasure and sexual energy within my armpit and surrender fully to that experience, right? The difference is huge. Next and final is identity, and this is a very advanced technique. So identity is where you create a different part of you, like through parts work, that comes online and takes control, takes like the main spot when you experience sexual situations. So you develop an identity, let's say, as an embodied queen of sexuality, and you bring out that identity every time you are in the pleasure place, right? There's a lot there, but like, for example, like I have an identity called the master coach, and she comes out and is present every single time I'm with a client, right? Like that is the part of me that comes online, and it's kind of just intuitive. It comes through, but it's been practiced so many times that it's really, really powerful. And that's a whole different thing. So we can go over that a different time. So let's move on to part 6, which is practices for orgasmic expansion. This is the last part. These aren't journal prompts. These are full body practices. A lot of them are going over, but just giving you specifics into what we've already talked about. Practice number 1 is expanding pleasure with the breath, right? So the two, really going into the 2 first steps without expecting the third one to happen, that mind consciousness shift. So step number 1, enhancing the pleasure, right? So touching your skin, slowing down, feel how it feels to touch with all your attention, and celebrate how good this feels, right? Tell yourself that nothing else matters in this moment. Then we've got step number 2, which is expanding your pleasure, right? So breathing with an open mouth connected breath, connecting to your sexual energy at your genitals, and intentionally moving the pleasure to different places in the body using energy techniques, right? Breathing the pleasure up your spine, letting it move, letting it flow, not limiting it. Incidentally, this is basically exactly what the pleasure portal does. So if you're like, I want to practice this and this isn't enough information, go over there. There's so much to explain, right? And please do let me know if there's a piece of this that you're like, I needed more information on that. I want you to expand, because I could take any piece of this and do a whole episode just on that. Right. And so I'm hoping this gives you enough information to start going. Please do use the pleasure portal as a resource. But the main intention of this episode is really to let you think about orgasms in a whole different way, right? Like, what would it look like to expand my orgasmic experience? So with that being said, practice number 2 is celebrating your pleasure. So we talked about this in the last episode on reclamation, but this one, I just want you to focus on like saying yes, saying that feels good, right? I love that. More of that, right? And doing it for your pleasure, doing it for your pussy, because pleasure expands when it's acknowledged and when it's celebrated. Don't do it for performance. Don't do it because you think your partner wants to hear you say yes, yes, yes more. Do it because you're like actually cheerleading your pleasure. And notice how your body responds when you celebrate it. Okay, practice number 3, we have surrendering the outcome. So this is deep presence. So offer yourself pleasure and then intentionally relax. So like pleasure and then relax, and then pleasure and then relax. So if you're somebody who likes to use a vibrator, you can practice this on your own. Offer pleasure and then relax. Offer pleasure and then turn it off and relax. And breathe all the tension out. Even set a timer. Each time you have to let go and relax. And notice how much the pleasure increases when you relax. And breathe out and sink deeper and deeper and deeper into your body. And then if you get to any sort of climax or orgasmic experience, let it be whatever it wants to be today, right? Long, short, subtle, wild, incomplete, any of it. And really practice accepting and being present with all of that experience. Practice number 4 is talking to pussy. So this one is probably the most important. Talk to your pussy. Seriously. If you've got one, please talk to her. If you got genitals, well, all of us do. If you got a cock even, talk to them. It's the same concept. So you can do all of these or some of them or in combination. Honestly, I would probably do them all. So option number 1 is to journal to her. You can write her a letter, right? And you might even do option number 2 first, which is bring out a mirror and look at her before going and writing that letter, right? Write the letter while you're looking at her. Really, really look at your subject in the face, as it were. Option number 3 is to place your hand on top of her, close your eyes, and talk to her. Listen to her responses. Ask her really deep, wonderful questions, or just yes or no answers. Like, what can I do for you today? What would bring you pleasure today? Imagine living an entire day of your life doing only what your pussy wanted. It is possible. I even know women who are in their 70s who are like, I don't do anything anymore unless it makes my pussy tingle. Yeah, fucking empowered right there. Holy shit. And then option number 4 is actually to speak to her while you self-pleasure. And this one is really, really powerful because you can check in, you can like move with her, right? Like it's just try it out. Whatever's working for you right now. All right, practice number 5 is get to know your body. So explore your body slowly and with lots of time. You could grab a glass wand or your finger, or explore whatever it takes to explore the inside of your vagina and the outside, right? Slowly touch it. Notice how it feels, right? Is it numb? Is it sensitive? Is it pleasurable? Feel around for the different areas that I've mentioned. Look at some anatomy maps and try to find those places, right? Map it out. Even, again, read Women's Anatomy of Arousal by Sherry Winston for the full instructions here, but just explore with no expectations or timeline. And yes, Sherry Winston does walk you through exactly how to explore it, and she'll give you a full audio on walking you through exploring your own anatomy, right? Take out a mirror, look at it. We don't spend nearly enough time being curious or present here. We just expect her to perform when the time comes, right? Let's give her some attention. She wants it, trust me. All pussies want attention. Okay, and now the last practice is a genital massage. So this is usually called a yoni or a lingam massage. Those are the Sanskrit words for pussies and cocks, and it's a tantric technique. There's not enough time to go into it here today. There's a lot to explore. It's a slow exploration of healing techniques, but the main difference is that instead of a testicle massage or a like self massage, you're getting somebody else to do it for you. And so there's a huge connection that can form between the two people. And it's really, really healing, but also extremely vulnerable, right? Like somebody's going down on you and like they're touching you in a way that's not meant to be pleasurable, but meant to be healing, meant to feel the pain, meant to really go into all the emotions that are stored deep within the vaginal walls and the vaginal tissue. So there's lots of instructions for this online. I'm happy to provide it or even do an episode on it. So let me know if this is something you want to learn more about. Okay, that's it. Let's take a big, deep breath out. By the end of Orgasmic Expansion, a woman can say, I don't rush my orgasms. I feel pleasure throughout my body. I trust my body's intelligence. I experience orgasm as an unfolding, not a finish line. I feel more alive during sex. I feel more confident and present in my body. This phase isn't about doing more, it's about allowing and surrendering and relaxing, and then adding fire when you need it. So, next episode, we go even further. We're going to go into orgasmic mastery, where sexual energy becomes fuel. And I know I talk about that step a lot. And so I'm excited that we've actually had a chance to go through all the different phases and really give a map as to where you might be at in your pleasure, in your orgasmic journey. And then, yes, finally arriving at this orgasmic mastery step where it's, we're using the sexual energy for healing, for empowerment, for manifestation, for creativity, for life force. It's where orgasm stops being about sex and starts being about how you live, right? Like the way you live can mirror your orgasmic experience. In fact, usually it does. That is the most incredible part about orgasms, is like it teaches you so much about life, and you can mirror so much of how you move through life in your orgasmic experience, right? Like if you're super exploratory, if you're open to new things, if you're surrendering into life itself, you're going to be able to surrender into orgasms. That's part of what they teach us. It's so magical. And so as we close today, I want to invite you to really meet yourself where you are, right? Celebrate every sensation and don't rush towards mastery. It's cool to learn about it now so that you know what you might work towards if it's something you want. I think it's really essential information for all of us to have, because we all dip our toe into those mastery fields at some point, right? If you're in the reclamation phase, you're not just going to stay there. You're going to dip your toe into expansion. Again, it's not linear, but really try to be here now. Everything, every action you take towards your orgasm is amazing. No matter where you're at, you're exactly where you're meant to be. There's no competition, there's no finish line, just experience. Hey, see, it's exactly like life. How much can you experience life and orgasm right now? How much can you experience pleasure? How much can you surrender and relax into your orgasm? How much sensation can you name and really, truly experience? How much connection does that yield, both to yourself and to others? That's it. That's what we're here for. If you liked this episode, if you found it valuable, if there's something amazing about it, please click the like or subscribe or follow, or wherever you are, click that little button that says, I'm going to get notified about the next one. Amazing. Share it with a friend. That's the best way to get the info out about podcasts. Share it with a friend who definitely needs to hear this, that you want to share it with, that you want to have a glass of wine with later and talk about all the mad stuff I said. Share it, like it, subscribe. I'll see you next time.